Hi everybody, I'm Kevin Keller, the CEO of CFP Board, and welcome to today's Certificant Connection webinar. During today's webinar, we'll have updates from this week's Board of Directors meeting. We'll review our new strategic priorities and highlights from the initiatives that we have for 2022 and beyond. We'll update you on the nominations process for the new board directors that will join us beginning in January of 2022. We'll share updates on the virtual diversity summit and our career fair coming up later this month. And most importantly, we'll answer your questions. Let me cover a few housekeeping topics though before we get started. If you run into issues with your audio, or if it seems like the slides are out of sync, you should refresh your webinar console. Now to do that, you would press F5, or if you're on a Mac, hit Command R. There is a Q&A function on your screen that you can use to submit questions to us at any time during the program. We'll address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session, and at the end of the program, if we don't get to your question, someone from CFP Board will follow up and provide you with an answer. Joining me today are two leaders of our Board of Directors. Doug King, CFP, is the 2021 Chair of the Board of Directors, and Camila Elliott, CFP, is the Chair-elect. Thank you all for joining us today. Doug, why don't you start us off with an update from the board meeting that I think literally just wrapped up about 90 minutes ago.
Thank you, Kevin. I'd be happy to. I'm pleased to share that our board meeting was held in person this week in Naples, Florida. As we shared after our last meeting in July, the board has adopted a set of 5 strategic priorities for the next 5 years and beyond. So here you see a framework for CFP Board's new strategic plan. We visualized it with a 5-block diagram, as you can see here. At the center, we have a CFP's core business, which is the standards and certification. This work encompasses all of our work to set and uphold competency standards, our work to set and uphold high ethical standards for CFP professionals, and our work to enforce those ethical standards. As you can see here, we have blocks for access and awareness. These 2 blocks cover areas that are part of our current strategic priorities and were part of the 4 A's that will be retiring at the end of this year. And we have blocks for workforce development and for engagement with regard to both regulatory and community engagement. As we approach 2022, we have been looking at what we'll focus under in each of these priorities, and I believe we have some exciting initiatives planned. Let me share some highlights of those plans. First, standards and certification priority. CFP Board sets, administers, and enforces certification standards that warrant public trust. In 2022, we'll complete the work of our Commission on Sanctions and Fitness, which began this year, to review our sanctions guidelines and fitness standards. Last July, we released for public comment the first set of proposed changes to the sanction guidelines and procedural rules. And this week, the board reviewed and proposed changes and comments received, and we'll be sharing the board's decisions on those changes soon. We expect to have another public comment later in 2022 that addresses the rest of the Commission's recommendations. This project is an important part of CFP Board's work in recent years to strengthen enforcement and our code of standards. After the Commission's and Sanction and Fitness wraps up its work in 2022, we'll be turning our attention to competency standards for the CFP certification. So next year, we'll be preparing for a new competency standards commission that will conduct a holistic review of our competency standards. From our experience and the CFP exam to the education requirements, both for initial certification and continuing education. The standards and certification priority also includes developing the principal knowledge topics list that is at the center of the educational requirements for CFP certification. Earlier this year, we released the results of our latest practice analysis study, which resulted in an updated list of principal knowledge topics. The new principal knowledge topics introduced a new domain called the Psychology of Financial Planning. This domain has areas of ample room for development in both theory and practice. And I'm pleased to announce that the CFP Board plans to release in early 2022 an e-book on the Psychology of Financial Planning. We have a great team of academics and practitioners developing the content for the new publication, and we expect the e-book will be a great resource for students, educators, and practitioners. So next we have the priority of access. CFP Board expands access to competent and ethical financial planners by increasing the number and diversity of CFP professionals. In 2022, we'll continue our work to grow CFP certificant population, particularly among diverse segments. This work encompasses all of the candidate marketing and candidate support and resources that the CFP Board provides. It also includes much of the work that our Center for Financial Planning and its work to expand gender and racial diversity in the profession. And it includes work to encourage pro bono financial planning, which expands access to competent and ethical financial planners within underserved communities. Next, we have the priority of awareness. CFP Board increases awareness of CFP certification as the must-have financial planner credential for consumers and advisors. Our public awareness campaign remains the primary initiative for this priority, and we feel that our campaigns have really made an impact. In 2021, the public awareness campaign advertising generated more than 1.45 billion impressions from paid advertising, in addition to 2.3 billion impressions from earned media generated through our public relations efforts. Total awareness of CFP certification among our target audience of mass affluent initiators was measured at 83% in our 2021 brand tracking study, only a few percentage points away from the CPA designation, which had an 86% total awareness. We've also been seeing the campaign drive significant traffic to our consumer website, letsmakeaplan.org. This year we saw more than 250,000 visitors to the campaign website in the month of May when the TV advertising was on the air. And over the course of the year, as of September 30th, 2021, the site has seen more than 2 million page views. This website was relaunched last December following consumer research with a new design that really makes our Find a CFP Professional search tool very prominent. When we announced the site's relaunch, we shared that we would be adding a payment options filter to the search tool at a future date. Our research found that consumers are very interested in knowing how they would pay an advisor, and that such information would be one of the most helpful filters for the Find a CFP Professional tool. Keep an eye out for communications asking CFP professionals to add your payment options to your search tool profiles. Now, a lot of what I've mentioned today is an extension of CFP Board's recent activities and priorities. Through our strategic planning process, we also looked for significant new activities that would further CFP Board's mission and key issues impacting the profession. We have some very exciting projects planned for the coming years, and that potential to be transformative for the CFP certification and the profession as a whole. A number of them will require feasibility studies and extensive planning before they're rolled out, but today I'd like to introduce two of those bold new initiatives. First, we're looking to launch research projects designed to verify the positive impact that financial planning has on a client's well-being. All of us in the profession believe that financial planning is beneficial. We see how it impacts our individual clients and their families, and we've seen some studies that report clients of financial planners are more confident than others. But a lot of the studies out there have been qualitative and compare groups of clients to non-clients at the moment of time. We're looking at starting research programs that will provide more empirical research with longitudinal data collected over a significant period of time. The results of this research has the potential to make a huge impact on consumer awareness as the value of financial planning and will help advance recognition of financial planning as a distinct profession. Next, we're in the initial stages of planning a future financial planner program focused on raising awareness of financial planning careers among an audience much younger than what we reached out before, high school and college students. Future financial planners will likely come from Generation Z, those born between 1997 and 2012. That group currently has numbers around 67 million. So we have a massive group of rising talent with the potential to feel a very real need for CFP professionals. Yet when they're making major decisions about colleges, majors, and career paths, they have little, if any, awareness that financial planning is a career option. We need to change that. The need for more advisors is something we believe calls for innovative and collaborative solutions that involve the whole financial services industry. So this new initiative is envisioned as a collaborative STEM-like movement to generate awareness among younger demographics about rewarding, in-demand careers CFP professionals enjoy as they help people achieve their financial goals. We're very excited about this new program and how it will strengthen the pipeline of future CFP professionals, something not only that will advance the CFP Board's workforce development priority, but will also provide great value for financial planning educators and firms.
Doug, I know this, let's just take a second here. This future financial planner program idea is one that you and I talked about a year and a half ago as we were thinking about this. I know it's one you're really excited about.
It is. It's something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about, and as we really look at what we've got planned for the future, we're just excited about what the results can be.
You know what, when I came to CFP Board in 2007, only 6% of the exam candidates had an undergraduate degree in financial planning. Now, we're at 12.3%, but if you think about financial planning as an emerging profession, we've got to up that number significantly, and we intend to do that. It's a long-term plan, though.
Absolutely.
All right, Doug, thank you so much. Everyone at CFP Board, certainly I do, and the staff, really appreciates the clarity with which the Board of Directors has spoken about its priorities. Camila, you know, we've just finished up a nominating season. Why don't you tell us more on that process?
Certainly, Kevin. As chair-elect of the board, I lead the board's nominating committee, and we've been hard at work reviewing applications from prospective new board directors. Last year, as part of our comprehensive governance review, the board made a number of updates to our nominations process. A key change was to take a more holistic view of the professional skills, experience, and knowledge needed on the board and its committees. We want to make sure the board has the diversity of experience, viewpoints, and representation necessary for good governance. Earlier this year, the nominating committee worked with an executive search consultant to conduct a gap analysis. We used the results of that analysis to develop a comprehensive descriptive profile for future board candidates. Here you see the descriptive profile we developed for 2022 board candidates. It is very specific about the characteristics we've been looking for in new board members for 2022. These complement the characteristics of our current board members and fill gaps in the current board's composition. It's important to note that these characteristics are specific to this year's nominating process. Each year, they will be updated as board members roll off, and we identify new gaps to be filled. So if you're interested in serving on the board but don't fit the characteristics we sought for this year's candidates, there's a good chance you may meet those that we're looking for in future years. This year's application deadline was in June, and we evaluated applicants through a process that culminated in interviews with a short list of candidates between mid-August and October. I'm pleased to share that at this week's meeting, the board elected 4 new board directors who will begin their terms in January of 2022. We are in the process of notifying those individuals, and we look forward to announcing the new board directors later this month. We appreciate everyone who took time to submit an application this year. While our criteria was very specific this year, the call for nominations had a great response, and we received over 100 applications. Serving on the board of directors provides a great opportunity not only to guide CFP board's work to benefit the public, but also to make an impact on the profession. Another great opportunity to get involved with CFP board's work is coming up in just a couple of weeks.
Camila, again, 100 people, and we only elected 4. We joked that, it's harder to get, the acceptance rate at Yale is maybe even greater. What are some of the things, if people want to know how they can increase their likelihood or have a more effective submission and application, what are some of the things they can do?
Well, one of the things is reviewing what we're looking for within each specific year in our call for nominations. We don't utilize that to eliminate people, but we want to make sure that we have inclusive perspectives and we have the right diversity within our board of directors. The second is check out CFP.net and see what we're working on as an organization. And does your experience, does your volunteerism, does your board experience, does it add value and contribute to the overall CFP board? Most people do a really thorough job, but sometimes people don't really put a lot of time into their application. So, one thing that people don't realize is the nominating committee reads every single application. There is no high-level screening process. We read every single word. And the initial written application is our screen. So the robustness of your responses, the strategic thinking, and the thoughtfulness in each question will determine if you do make it to that second round. That's great. Why don't you tell us more about the upcoming Diversity Summit? I would be happy to, Kevin. So on November 17th to 18th, the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning will host our 4th annual Diversity Summit. As with last year's summit, the Diversity Summit will be held virtually, and we will have a virtual career fair on November 19th. The theme of this year's summit is Metrics That Matter, with sessions that highlight qualitative and quantitative metrics that firms can use to measure diversity within their workforce and culture. We have some exciting speakers lined up, including Jane Hawan of Hawan & Associates, Rachel Robichodi of Adesina Social Capital, Mark Tibergien, and our featured keynote speaker, Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. And of course, I'm very pleased to be participating in a session with Brent Kessel, CEO of Abacus Wealth Partners, to share findings and solutions from our report titled 2 American Financial Plans, the Next 50 Years of the Racial Wealth Gap and What You Can Do About It. At the Diversity Summit, the Center will also release the next in its series of reports addressing diversity in the profession. Past reports have validated key issues around the profession's lack of diversity and made the business case for diversity, as well as featured case studies with actionable solutions to advance diversity and inclusion. The new report will feature more actionable solutions aligned with the Diversity Summit's focus on the importance of metrics. So we encourage you all to make time in your schedule to attend and participate in this year's Diversity Summit. All program will be conducted virtually, with sessions held between the hours of noon and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Registration is free, and you can sign up at cfp.net/diversity summit. I also want to mention the Center's great new publication, The Guide to Careers and Financial Planning. This guide provides students, recent graduates, and career changers with practical information on starting and sustaining successful financial planning careers. It is based on research the Center commissioned from a team of academic scholars and industry experts, which captured information about how a broad variety of financial services companies recruit, train, and develop financial planners. If you know someone looking for career advice who may find financial planning a good fit, please share this guide with them. We are very pleased with how the new career guide turned out and hope it helps spark more interest in financial planning careers and shapes our future profession.
You know, Camila, one of the things that I think we attempted to do with this new Guide to Careers in Financial Planning, there are so many different business models that an individual could practice under. As we know, there are a variety of different functions, and sometimes that can be really confusing to somebody who's not already in financial services. So we took a look at a number of different business models and talked about what you can expect. Some are more risk-based, where the risk is higher and the potential return is higher, versus all different business models. And I think this guide, I'm really proud of the work. It was led by our Center for Financial Planning. Mark Tibersian, who leads our workforce advisory group, was instrumental and key in helping provide leadership to it. I think it's going to make a big difference.
I do too, and as someone who's had varied experiences in this profession, I think providing this perspective to those early in their careers is extremely helpful. Thank you.
It is indeed. Well, you know, we've got a great agenda for the Diversity Summit. You know, we have another event this fall as well, and it is our Academic Research Colloquium. And it happens November 11th, 12th, 15th, and 17th. And again, as I said, sponsored by the Center for Financial Planning. The colloquium is an international meeting of researchers and grad students and practitioners. It's designed to showcase the latest academic research within financial planning and other disciplines that directly or indirectly relate to financial planning. In addition to research papers, posters, and speakers, there'll be a track of sessions for practitioners that is eligible for CE credit. These sessions are led by a team of scholar practitioners who will explore how the findings of the academic research that are shared at the colloquium can be applied in financial planning practice. If you're interested in joining us to see the latest research in financial planning, you can register online at cfp.net/ARC for Academic Research Colloquium. Doug, you know, the colloquium is an important piece because we're talking about wanting to grow the number of college students, college-bound high school students, and grow the number of people coming into the profession this way. But one of the big limiting factors is faculty to teach and lead these programs. And one of the old saying in the academic world, you have to publish or perish. You have to get the academic recognition of your peers in order to get promotion and tenure. And that's why we're putting this together. It's really important. It all fits together with the strategic priorities the board has identified.
Yeah, and I just want to say I am so impressed with the Center for Financial Planning and the fact that they have given financial professors the opportunity to publish, which leads to tenure, which leads to more academic programs, which has led to more colleges offering programs, which will enhance this introduction, more young folks entering the business.
We have just kind of, as you think about it, we've talked a little bit about this around the board table, but just as we have a corporate relations function that is calling on firms to grow the number of CFPs, you could imagine CFP board with a university relations function reaching out as well to encourage colleges and universities to offer financial planning.
It's going to be critical that we do that.
Well, the final CFP exam window for 2021 is now underway. It continues through next Tuesday, November 9th. This month's exam is the last test on our current principal knowledge topic. So what that means is that next March, there'll be new topics, including what Doug mentioned, the psychology of financial planning. That domain includes some topics that were previously embedded in other domains as well as new topics. As we shared with our educators and students earlier this year, the first CFP exam window, again, is this coming March. That window is now open, so please encourage your qualified colleagues to register early for the best date and site availability. So, guys, we've covered a lot of topics. We've had some questions that came in. I think we'll answer as many of those as we can get to, and let's kind of jump right in. The first question, Doug, I'll direct this one to you. Carl asks, what is CFP Board's latest thinking about the availability of advisor compensation method detail on the consumer site?
I'll take that. Carl, thanks for asking that question. As you recall during my comments, I did mention that our research during our 2020 redesign of our consumer website, letsmakeaplan.org, we found that consumers do want more information on how they can pay for financial planning services. It's important to note that that's different than compensation method information, similar to what we've done in the past. I also shared that we'll be adding payment options, a filter on the the Find a CFP Professional search tool before the end of this year. And the addition of the payment filter we think will further the CFP Board's mission of benefiting the public and providing every American access to competent and ethical financial planning. And I think the filter will also give more educational information on the site too, which will help consumers make an informed decision as they search for CFP professionals that might be right for them.
Doug, this is a topic that everybody cares about. We used to include information about how the advisor was compensated, and it was very much an advisor-focused terms and methodology. The way we're looking at it going forward, and what our research told us, was that clients wanted information about how they would pay for services. So let me give you an example. Anecdotally, people would come up to me and say, and I shared this in the board. My doctor said, Kevin, I don't want somebody, I'm a do-it-yourselfer. Most docs, for those of you who had clients who are doctors, he believed he could do it himself. But he said, I'd like to have somebody by the hour. How can we do that? And, we had no way to search, or if somebody wanted a flat fee AUM, there are a lot of different ways. So we're trying to be more responsive. This is, I think, as we look, and what we're looking at is a much more consumer-focused, not advisor-focused way. Well, we had some discussion about that at the board.
That's absolutely right, and I think some of the confusion before fee-based, fee-only, those are not real consumer-friendly terms. It's hard to understand where I should be putting myself into there, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to put it in layman's terms, thinking of a consumer that might go onto that website and basically saying how does my advisor get paid. And I mentioned earlier, there's going to be an email that goes out in the near future, and so it's going to be really important. If you want to be on that search, you want to be found, make sure you respond, go back into your profile, and check the appropriate boxes.
The other thing that's really important here, our code and standards still requires a CFP professional to explain how they are compensated. So nothing takes away from that obligation as part of being a CFP professional.
Yeah, we think it's very consistent.
All right. Next question. Camila. Claire writes to us, and she asks, what is the status of CFP board reevaluating the bachelor's degree requirement? Essentially, as you know, you have to have a bachelor's degree now in order to become certified. So I'll give you that one.
Great, and thank you for your question, Claire. The bachelor's degree requirement is part of the current requirement for initial certification. When the Board of Directors adopted the bachelor's degree requirement in 2001, it did so with the knowledge that the requirement might delay or keep some experienced financial planners from obtaining CFP certification. And with that in mind, we delayed implementation until 2007, providing prospective CFP candidates 5 years to obtain certification. Next year, CFP Board plans to begin a holistic review of our competency standards, including the bachelor's degree requirement. We anticipate this review will, among other things, address the degree requirement's impact on our work in advancing the profession and lead to recommendations for the board's consideration. That doesn't mean we will change the degree requirement, but we will be reviewing and validating how all of the competency requirements work together and evaluate their impact for the profession and the public.
I guess I just had one of the people mentioned that the degree requirement was misguided, right? And I've talked to the people who were on the board back in 2001, and thinking about what was in their mind at the time that they put this in place, and as we think their goal then, as now, that financial planning be recognized as an established profession, it was a first step toward a more professional orientation.
And I totally agree with you, Kevin. When you think about CPAs, there is a bachelor's degree requirement. When you think about attorneys outside the state of California, there is a requirement to have a bachelor's degree. So for us to have this profession that we desire, the bachelor's degree is seen as a key component of that.
And look, I understand, we get calls from time to time in the office about people questioning, why do we do this, or how can I do it? Between Arizona State University and Purdue Global and University of Maryland Global Campus, a lot of people have, part of their degree done, they just never finished it. It's never been easier to finish your undergraduate degree. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's never been easier.
And there's also the Pennsylvania State University Global Program.
We probably have one of those at Ohio State as well. Camille and I have been having a few chuckles this week since Ohio State prevailed in the horseshoe recently against Penn State. We have a question. Look, one of the things that we've been devoting a lot of resources to recently is a number of historical investigations. We had a question from Jim. He asks, what can you share about the 1,000-plus investigations that CFP Board opened up last year? And then he goes on, and why did CFP Board only open up about 1,000 cases when the Wall Street Journal said they found over 6,000 incidents not reflected on our website? So let me take a shot at that. Doug, Camila, feel free to join in here. So first of all, let me say I'm pleased to share that as we come to the end of 22, we have nearly completed 1,266 investigations. That was the final number that we opened up after conducting background checks on all CFP professionals last year. We call these our historical investigations. By the end of this year, we will be substantially complete, and we will substantially complete the adjudications likely by the first or the beginning of the second quarter next year. So the investigation part is almost done. Obviously, there may be hearings. There will be some hearings that carry over, but those will largely be done by early in the second quarter of next year. The 1,266 historical investigations that we opened reflect what was a very thorough screening process at the CFP Board. Our background checks of almost 90,000 CFP professionals, 89,000 at the time, now almost 92,000, but at the time we went back and we scrubbed the entire CFP certificate community, identified potentially relevant historical information, actually involving more than 17,000 CFP professionals. That information was then reviewed against case opening criteria. So just because Doug, you've seen this a lot, where somebody has a customer complaint, you talk about this, you were in the business, and there was nothing there ever pursued.
Yeah, I think statistically you'll see that the vast majority of CFP professionals work with a broker-dealer in some capacity. That means that they are subject to rules of FINRA. Whether this is fair or not, FINRA requires a complaint to be put on your U4. That is required to be done before you have an opportunity to decide or defend yourself in court. And so when you look at those 6,000, you look at the numbers that we've looked at, many of those never came to fruition. They never were pursued. They were denied. Nothing came from that. And so that 6,000 quickly became 1,000. And so, if you're sitting out there listening to this and you think about, yourself, and you think about the fact that, my gosh, somebody complained about me, there was no merit, and yet my U4 now has a ding on it, that was part of that. And so we quickly cleared a lot of those out. And we try to be really, really fair to you. The last thing we're going to do is we're not going to open up an investigation on you before there's anything there. We're going to let your firm really do the work that they're required to do and get to the bottom of this first before we really get involved.
Thank you, Doug. So, as I said, we had 17, when we scrubbed and scraped the entire certificate community, 17,000. But then, as we looked at the criteria, we looked at whether or not the event took place more than 7 years ago. If it was more than 7 years old, we did not open a case up on it. We looked at what kind of event it was, how severe the case was. We also excluded matters that CFP Board had already investigated and maybe didn't find a reason for a public sanction. There could have been a private sanction that wasn't on the database, but we looked at those. A significant number of events that CFP Board detected during this background check fell outside the 7-year window. or were settled for a threshold amount excluded by the severity of the criteria. CFP Board, as I said, sent cautionary letters to those who had potential misconduct that was older, that if it was troublesome or bothersome, we did send cautionary letters. We didn't investigate these matters. If those people who got cautionary letters have another issue that comes up, it's essentially on the record, on our records. The existence of such a cautionary letter would be likely considered an aggravating circumstance during adjudication of some subsequent charge of misconduct. So glad we had an opportunity to address that, and thank you, Jim, for asking that question. Doug, the next question's for you. Liam asks, when will CFP Board offer annual conferences that are comparable to what is offered by the CFA Institute? I have to tell you, I've never been to a CFA Institute. I have great respect for our friends down in Charlottesville, Virginia, but I think he's asking about when will CFP Board offer conferences.
Yeah, thank you, Liam. That's a good question. I think it's really important to remember that the CFP Board is a certifying organization. We're not a membership organization. We do have a number of really fantastic membership organizations out there that do offer great conferences. Matter of fact, the profession as a whole, I think you'll find there's an unlimited number of conferences that you might attend. That said, the CFP Board has traditionally held annual meetings with very specific segments towards our stakeholders, such as the registered program directors and contacts at firms that employ CFP professionals. And 5 years ago, we've mentioned this a couple of times today, our Center for Financial Planning started and hosted our very first academic research colloquium, which includes offerings for researchers, educators, students, practitioners. It's a great event. It's coming up again. If you get an opportunity, you should really try to attend. And we think that the interaction between these groups, they've been very productive, they've been very exciting, and we're continuing looking to ways that we can encourage more interaction. Next year, this is something new. We do plan to hold our Registered Programs Conference in conjunction with our annual Firm Summit. And we think it's going to be a great opportunity for those that are training the next generation of CFP professionals to connect directly with those that are bringing the next generation into the workforce. So we think there's going to be some great synergies in that. And we're also considering how other future events that we might integrate into a more annual event. And so you actually may see, what do we do, Kevin? 5, 6? How many different events do you think we do in a given year?
I think there are a good 5 where we're bringing people in from the outside, 5 different times where we're bringing from.
Yeah, so we're looking at a number of ways potentially that might come together, in a more collaborative event. But regardless, like I said, there's a number of great membership organizations such as FPA and NAPA. They provide great value, and we'd encourage you to continue to go to those or join those organizations at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the custodians all have conferences, although they're still virtual largely this year. Doug, when you first started, you showed the 5 blocks, and the block on the lower left-hand corner was engagement. And I think it speaks to CFP Board's unique role within the financial advice ecosystem where we can bring folks together. I think we're the one organization that has good relationships with the colleges and universities that are preparing the next generation. We have the relationship with the firms that in many cases are hiring the next generation. We have relationships with the CFP community who are providing competent and ethical financial planning. And so, sometimes people have asked as we've started to roll out the 5 blocks, they're like, I get access, awareness, I get the workforce. Obviously, what's engagement? Well, this is engagement when we're talking about how we can bring people together.
Yeah, and it's not to say anything about other designations or other organizations, but I really believe the CFP Board has earned the right to be the one to bring this financial planning profession together. And I think when we call, they answer. They pick up the phone, they come in, and they say, sure, we want to be a part of that. And it's an opportunity for us to really bring thought leaders into one place, similar to what we did a couple of years ago in Chicago at the 50th anniversary of financial planning.
Absolutely. Paul asks, is there a planned launch date for the registered program community of interest that we, I think, might have discussed earlier? Paul, I remember that discussion, I think, vaguely from a webinar with the registered program leaders when we announced the results of our practice analysis. We continue to host some webinars for that group. We'll continue to do that. If you have additional thoughts on how we can encourage cross-institutional learning and camaraderie, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at CFP Board, including to Dr. Mary Kay Swedberg, who is our Director of Education, or Morgan in her office, so that we can help bring those folks together. Camila, a question for you. Cody asks, how does the board intend to heighten public awareness of the importance of financial planning and the financial planning process in 2022 and beyond?
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for the question, Cody. As you may know, the CFP Board's public awareness campaign continues to make a positive impact on public awareness of CFP professionals, as Doug shared earlier today. The public awareness campaign advertising and related outreach to the public and media will continue in 2022. We do anticipate looking at refreshing the campaign ads and other materials for the 2023 campaign. Doug also mentioned the research projects we plan to initiate in 2022 to verify the positive impact that financial planning has on clients' well-being. We're all excited to get those underway and anticipate that the studies will make a huge impact on consumer awareness of the value of financial planning, as well as help advance recognition of financial planning as a distinct profession.
Great. Thank you, Camila. Doug, Tom asks, what is your assessment of the impact of changes on the Code of Ethics and the impact on the profession and the public's perception of CFP professionals?
Okay, sure, I'll take that. Thanks for the question, Tom. I may be a little biased, quite frankly, as a board member, but I think we've had a tremendous impact. I really do. I feel the foundation of the updated Code of Ethics and Standards of Conduct, it was initially just an extension of the CFP's professional duty to include all financial advice to clients. And if you think about it, before that, the fiduciary duty was limited to just financial planning advice. And I think that led to some confusion among the public about whether they could really count on a CFP professional to act in their best interest. And I think the expansion of the fiduciary duty really helped eliminate a lot of that confusion to the public, and quite frankly, for CFP professionals and their firms. And so if you look at the Code of Standards beside other standards and regulations within the financial services industry, I think our unambiguous fiduciary duty really sets the bar and distinguishes a CFP certification, and our high ethical and competency standards. It's been higher than ever before. And I think that really also comes into play relative to the number of new folks that are continuing to join us as CFP professionals.
You know, Doug, the FINRA website has over 200 designations, certifications. It's a veritable alphabet soup of certifications, and they all have some form of code of ethics or standards. But the last time we went through the entire list, and we could only find 5 total that had any evidence of public discipline for people not living up. So it was, I'm going to see if I can do this from memory, CFP had more than all other public, had more, you know, we had enforced our standards. The CPAs, right, we know that as licensees, then they have to do it. our friends in Charlottesville that I referenced earlier, the CFA Institute, the Chartered Financial Analyst, and then my friend Sean Walters out with what was IMCA, now the Investments and Wealth Institute, with his SEMA and PCWA. So, I'm really proud of what we do.
Yeah. So one other thing, Tom, I was on the board when we did the change of the standard, and we really were concerned, quite frankly, what impact we were going to have across the board, and we really made plans. We really did contingency plans. What happens if a certain number of our advisors, our CFP professionals, just didn't want to do this? And as a matter of fact, as soon as we did it, the levels continued to rise, and they continue to rise. So we feel really good about it.
Good. We had another Tom, a different Tom. He asks, have you considered surveying the CFP community to see how well the board is meeting CFP needs? Well, Tom, thank you so much. Now, look, we don't survey all 91,000 CFP professionals. We do a sample. We do a certificate survey every 2 years. The most recent time was April through June of this year. Some of the key findings, Tom, were that satisfaction with financial planning careers remains high. We do this survey. It's a very thorough survey every 2 years. 93% of you told us you were either satisfied or very satisfied. It's been consistent 91, 92, 93% for the last decade or more. 93% of the CFP community told us you were satisfied with your decision to pursue CFP certification. CFP professionals strongly believe in the value of CFP certification for financial professionals. 93% would recommend CFP certification. So yes, we do. We also use that to help inform the strategic priorities of the organization. So Tom, I appreciate you asking that question. Tony writes to us, Camila talked about the Diversity Summit, and the keynote speaker is Dr. Ibram Kendi. And, Tony asked, why did we invite him to speak, and what results, why did we bring him? So, I appreciate the question, Tony, very much. Our Center for Financial Planning is sponsoring this event, and the Center's mission is to create a more diverse and more sustainable financial planning profession. Now, this focus also implies that CFP professionals and their clients have various perspectives that merit attention. An objective of the summit is to expose attendees to diverse perspectives so that they may apply as appropriate what might be relevant to their planning and professional efforts. I think one of the other questions, I've had a couple emails, candidly, Tony. People ask, were my certificate fees used to pay for that? We had, he was a sponsored speaker. We had a former chair of the board who very much wanted to make sure his view was heard and stroked a check for his fees. So we understand that and appreciate that. But, the research that we've done, Camila, you've done research in this area as well. When we've surveyed Black CFP professionals, they've told us, that they experience they have very different experiences, I think, than people who look like me with blue eyes and gray hair.
Mm-hmm. And you are right, Kevin. And I think the important, the reason why we asked him to speak at the Diversity Summit is to bring to the forefront the experiences of people of color in corporate America when they are the distinct minority. I think it's important for us, if we want to advance this profession and create an environment of inclusiveness, that we bring perspectives like his to the table. and to be able to increase the number of diverse individuals, create cultures that are welcoming. And as a Black professional, I'll share that, even some of the experiences he has shared, I have experienced in our profession. So I think it's critically important that his voice is heard and the voice of underrepresented individuals in our profession are heard at this Diversity Summit.
Great. Thank you, Camila. Well, we're just about out of time. The hour is almost up. Doug, I'm going to ask, kind of your parting words and maybe kind of where your head is as you kind of come to the end of your term as chair of the board of CFP Board.
Thank you, Kevin. This is it's been a very quick 5 years. It's hard to believe this is one of my last it was my last meeting today. I want to thank the CFP professional community for its support of the CFP board and of the CFP certification. We're all very excited about the profession's future, and we believe the CFP board's new strategic priorities are going to have a great impact. We've mapped out bold new initiatives that are relevant, ambitious, and will advance the CFP certification and profession for the benefit of the public. All of our work to grant and uphold the CFP certification enhances the value of this for everyone who holds it or supports it, from our CFP professionals to their firms and all of our educational partners. The CFP Board's mission is something we can't achieve on our own, and so we're very grateful to everyone who shared your time, your energy, and your support to all of our initiatives. And I do hope that you'll consider how you can get involved as well. And I just want to say publicly thank you, Kevin, for the opportunity to serve.
Yeah, great. Your peers elected you, and it was, we're wrapping up what I think is a pretty good year. But Camila, you're going to take the reins next year.
Yes, and I also want to thank the CFP professional community and everyone who supports it. The CFP board and the center have many important priorities and initiatives. I look forward to all of the important work we've lined up for 2022. I'm thrilled that we're making progress on advancing diversity and inclusion in the profession, and I encourage you to participate in that work. There are so many ways you can get involved, both at an individual level and as leaders within the firms and orgs that you are a part of. And I hope that you all join us later this month for our next Diversity Summit.
Camila, thank you. Doug, thank you. Personally, I appreciate the leadership, and I want to thank everybody on the board of directors for their dedication and commitment to CFP certification. We have 15 board members, and a majority are CFP professionals, but we have people who are not certified who care very much and contribute their time and energy on the board of directors. You all have, at the board level, articulated a clear vision for our work over the next few years, and certainly at the staff level, we feel like we have our marching orders and appreciate the clarity with how you've articulated the expectations for us. In closing, I'd like to thank everybody who joined us for today's webinar. A recording of this presentation will be posted on our website within the next few business days. CFP Board will follow up individually with those of you who asked questions that we were not able to get to during this broadcast. And so I'll say farewell and so long from Naples, Florida. Have a nice day, everybody. Cool.